Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon on assignment in Chicago.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Assignment? Are you the Grand Marshal of the Ben Johnson Parade in Chicago?
That was
what you're doing?
yesterday. That was yesterday.
Oh.
You're a day late. We're not late here on our new savior, Ben Johnson. Come on now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Are you going to take him to dinner at Hello Chicago Cut so you can get a free steak? Because I just mentioned the place.
You were so perceptive. You're so perceptive, Tony.
Oh, welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Draymond Green wants Jordan Poole to move on. Madison Keys upsets Iga Swiatek, and Booger McFarland joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the comments of Baltimore Ravens defensive back Marlon Humphrey, who says he is a hater where the Kansas City Chiefs are concerned. Humphrey urged the Buffalo Bills to beat the Chiefs, and Humphrey said, quote, "The Bills or whoever NFC team gotta beat the Chiefs. We can't let them keep getting away with this," unquote. Wilbon, have the Chiefs become a hateable dynasty to you?
Not to me, Tony. No, they just haven't. For one, to be hateable just for winning, you got to win a lot more, a lot longer. And I'm thinking historically because I'm old enough to think Yankees, Canadians, I'm talking, the old Celtics, meaning Bill Russell Celtics, even though I was only old enough to catch the end of that. And if you want to come into more modern times, if you wanted to hate the Shaq, Kobe Lakers, because over a period of time, 2 different periods, Phil Jackson and Kobe's Lakers were great, Michael Jordan, the Bulls. No, 3 out of 5 is a lot. It's greatness. If they get 3 in a row, you can hate them. If they go, that would be 4 out of 6, you can hate them. But, Tony, they also, you don't even know who they are. You know who Patrick Mahomes is. You know who Kelsey is. And that's kind of it. I mean, maybe you know Chris Jones, but for the most part, they're not identifiable yet. Yeah. They're not out there so long, and they don't do obnoxious things in public. They don't over-celebrate. They don't get on and make jerks of themselves on TV. No, I find them completely likable, and you and I have not talked about this. I wonder how you feel.
Yeah, I had never heard anybody say they hated the Chiefs until Mr. Humphrey just unloaded on them. And my feeling is that maybe Mr. Humphrey and his Baltimore Ravens teammates, if they played better, they would have a chance to knock the Chiefs out, and you wouldn't have to ask the Buffalo Bills to do that. Because the Baltimore Ravens basically do nothing in the playoffs but fizzle. They have won 78 games in 7 years. There's no other NFL team ever that has won that many games in that period of time that hasn't made the Super Bowl, just like the Ravens haven't made the Super Bowl. So maybe Mr. Humphrey should tend to his own garden. Why do people hate the Chiefs? Well, you would say that Patrick Mahomes gets all these calls. And in the playoffs in the last 4 years, he has gotten 7 roughing calls. And in those 4 years, there have been 36 penalties against the Chiefs and 66 against opponents. But maybe they are legitimate. Would you hate them because Taylor Swift shows up to Chiefs games? Call the NFL front office. They love that. Would you hate them because Andy Reid and Travis Kelce are in a lot of commercials? That's everybody's dream to be in commercials, even Mr. Humphrey. So I think you, A, should admire them, and B, you should be quiet if you don't beat them. If you don't beat them.
Yeah, particularly anybody from that squad right now. And let's point out, they have won a couple of Super Bowls, just not lately, not in that 70-whatever game winning stretch. But, Tone, I'm with you. There's a lot of State Farm ads, but still, first of all, most of them are really, really funny, particularly the ones with Andy Reid. But secondly, nobody knows that they're not household. They're not the 70 Steelers where like 11 guys and 9 are going to the Hall of Fame. No, sorry. They don't meet the standard. Not for me. Not yet. Now to the NBA, where Draymond Green wants Jordan Poole to move on from the punch Green delivered that ruptured their relationship. It happened while they were Warriors teammates in the 2022 preseason. Poole is now a Wizard, of course, and after facing the Dubs Saturday, he said, quote, "I love most of those guys over there," close quote. To which Draymond responded on his podcast, quote, "I really am sorry. That statement was kind of like it was looking for some sympathy. Kind of keep wanting to make me out to be the bad guy. Move on, bro. It is what it is." Close quote. Tony, who looks worse here, Poole or Green?
I think Draymond Green looks far worse. That's my opinion. And this is coming from a guy who has supported Draymond Green throughout his entire career in most of these controversies and who supported him in this particular incident. But for Draymond to say to Poole, "You've got to move on. You've got to stop saying this," basically to blame Poole. It ignores the history of the event and ignores what happens after, Mike. Jordan Poole was on the best team in the NBA, and they traded him to the worst team in the NBA, the Washington Wizards. This is like being exiled to the moon. It doesn't matter what Poole does, if he scores points, if he has effort. It doesn't matter. The team stinks. They're 6-36. Nobody watches them. Nobody cares about them. Now, you can say that Golden State is in decline now, which they are, but they were a dynasty. The Wizards are going to be consigned to the dustbin of history. Jordan Poole got the worst of this. He got punched, he got embarrassed, and then he got traded to a terrible team. He got the worst of it.
I'm going to isolate just on the comments and how tacky and classless and they seem. Not seem, they are. I mean, Draymond should be bigger than this, all right? And it's just like, not only did I do this thing, I'm going to say I'm sorry, but I'm still going to be a bully. It's just being a bully. And, we're at a time now in the NBA where there are not that many people that are going to stand up. I would love to have seen Draymond try some of this behavior with, say, Charles Oakley, and, Anthony Mason. Because then he would have been meeting equals, and those guys would have gotten some dust-ups, and there would have been no officials. They would have folded their arms like in a hockey fight and said, have at it. But Draymond, he says, get past it. Stop. You offended someone. You committed the offensive behavior. You admit that, and now you're going to say, move on. I mean, come on. I know Draymond's from a tough place. So am I, the south side of Chicago. And that behavior just wouldn't fly. It just wouldn't. Draymond is bigger than this. He knows what he did. And by the way, Tony, a lot of people around the league have a problem with Poole, and they're not really mad at Draymond, and he knows that. So you let it go. You be the bigger guy. But he can't. He just can't bring himself to do that.
I agree with that. Yeah, he pulled the scab off the wound. When he says that Poole should move on, he has moved on. He's moved on to the worst team in the league. So let it go. Let's move now to the Australian Open. Earlier today, American Madison Keys upset the number 2 seed, Iga Swiatek, in the third set tiebreaker to get to the finals, where she will face number 1 seed Aryna Sabalenka. Tonight, we have the men's semifinals. Novak Djokovic will play Alexander Zverev, and number 1 seed Jannik Sinner will play American Ben Shelton. Wilbon, where do you want to start?
Tone, I'll start with Keys, because I think this may be the biggest victory or second largest victory of her career. And I was paying a lot of attention to Madison Keys and wanted to see some of that and did. And cheers to Madison Keys. But this final foursome for the men in Australia, and I know you're not as big on Australia as the other 3 events, U.S. Open, French, and Wimbledon, but Tone, this is huge. And part of it, again, is because Djokovic is where he is at this stage of his career, at this age. And so I find this foursome irresistible. I started paying more attention to Ben Shelton 2 years ago, watched him in person in Washington when